Still working that boring little office job, Claire? Tiffany's voice cut through the Sunday brunch chatter like a knife. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. The entire family table went silent. My Aunt Patricia stopped pouring orange juice. Uncle Marcus looked down at his plate. Even my younger brother Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Tiffany leaned back in her chair, twirling her designer sunglasses. Her perfectly manicured nails caught the sunlight streaming through my parents' dining room window. She wore a cream blazer that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I mean, we're all just curious. You've been at that company for what, 3 years now? Still just a regular employee? My throat tightened. I had come to this family gathering excited, ready to share news about my recent promotion to senior analyst. But Tiffany had swept in late, as usual, commanding attention with stories about her luxury vacation to the Maldives. Now she was turning that spotlight on me, and it burned. I'm doing fine, I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. Actually, I just got promoted. Oh, promoted. Tiffany laughed, not unkindly, but not kindly either. That's sweet. From what, assistant to slightly less assistant? She glanced around the table, seeking validation. A few uncomfortable chuckles followed. My mother touched my hand gently, a silent plea not to make a scene. My father cleared his throat, trying to change the subject. But the damage was done. Heat crawled up my neck as I set down my fork. Everyone was looking at me now, some with pity, others with curiosity, waiting to see how I would respond. I smiled politely and excused myself to the bathroom. Inside, I gripped the marble countertop and stared at my reflection. My eyes were bright with unshed tears, my cheeks flushed with humiliation. Through the door, I could hear the conversation resume, Tiffany's laugh ringing out again as she told another story about meeting some celebrity at a yacht party. This wasn't the first time. Tiffany had always treated me like I was beneath her. Growing up, she was the golden child, beautiful, confident, always getting what she wanted. I was the quiet one, the studious one, the one who worked hard while she effortlessly charmed everyone around her. Our grandmother used to joke that Tiffany was born with a silver spoon, while I was born with a textbook. But something had changed in me during those months leading up to this brunch. I had been working quietly, strategically, building something at my company that nobody in my family knew about. The promotion I had tried to mention. It wasn't just a small step up. It was the beginning of something much bigger. I splashed cold water on my face and took a deep breath. When I returned to the table, I kept my head high. Tiffany was showing everyone photos on her phone, barely acknowledging my return. I sat down quietly and finished my meal without saying another word. Inside, though, something had shifted. A quiet determination settled in my chest like steel. I'll show her, I thought. One day, I'll show all of them. That night, I sat in my small apartment scrolling through social media. Tiffany's Instagram was a carefully curated gallery of perfection. Photos of her in designer dresses at charity galas. Snapshots of expensive dinners at exclusive restaurants. Selfies in front of luxury cars that weren't even hers. Each post had hundreds of likes and dozens of comments praising her life. I closed the app and opened my laptop instead. An email sat in my inbox from a woman named Victoria Hayes, a business consultant I had been working with for the past 6 months. The subject line read, "Exciting opportunity, leadership expansion." My heart quickened as I opened it. Victoria's firm had been helping me develop a business proposal for my company. What started as a simple project to improve our marketing department had evolved into something much larger. My ideas had caught the attention of our CEO, Mr. Anderson, who was looking for fresh leadership to expand into new markets. Victoria believed I was the perfect candidate. The email outlined next steps, a formal presentation to the board, potential partnership opportunities, and the possibility of heading an entirely new division. It was exactly what I had been working toward, quietly and methodically, while everyone in my family assumed I was just another office worker going nowhere. I typed a reply, accepting the next meeting. Before hitting send, I glanced at my phone one more time. Tiffany had just posted another photo, this time at some exclusive club downtown, surrounded by people who probably didn't even know her real name. I smiled to myself. Just wait, I whispered. Just wait. 3 months passed like a dream. I threw myself into work with a focus I didn't know I possessed. The presentation to the board went better than I could have imagined. Mr. Anderson himself praised my vision, calling it exactly what this company needs for the future. Within weeks, I was promoted to Director of Strategic Development, heading a new division focused on digital innovation. My salary tripled. My office moved to the top floor. I had a team of 12 talented people reporting to me, and the company was investing millions into my ideas. But I kept it all quiet. I didn't update my social media. I didn't brag at family gatherings, though I had been too busy to attend any. I simply focused on building something real. Then one Friday afternoon, my assistant Brianna knocked on my office door. "Claire, you need to see this." She handed me a folder from our Human Resources department. A new application just came in for the junior marketing position. I thought you might want to review it personally. I opened the folder, and my breath caught. There, printed in elegant font at the top of the resume, was a name I knew all too well, Tiffany Marie Westbrook. My cousin. The same cousin who had humiliated me at that brunch. The same cousin who had spent years treating me like I was nothing. She had applied for a job at my company. And she had no idea I worked here, let alone that I was the one who would be overseeing her application. I stared at the resume, my mind racing. This was too perfect, too ironic to be real. But there it was, in black and white. Tiffany's work history was impressive on paper, lots of fancy job titles, brief stints at well-known companies. But I knew the truth. She never stayed anywhere long. She coasted on charm and connections, never actually doing the hard work. I closed the folder slowly and looked up at Brianna. "Schedule her for an interview," I said calmly. "But don't mention my name. Let's see how this plays out naturally." The interview was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I watched from my office as Tiffany walked through the lobby, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. She looked as confident as ever, dressed in a sharp navy suit, her hair styled perfectly. I had instructed our HR team to keep my name off the initial interview near the elevators. The first round would be conducted by my deputy, Marcus Chen. No, I needed a different name. My deputy, Kyle Morrison, wait, that name was off limits too. My deputy, Blake Hamilton, would handle the preliminary questions. I would observe from behind a one-way glass in the adjacent room, a setup we used for important evaluations. Tiffany entered the interview room, all smiles and confidence. Blake greeted her professionally and began with the standard questions. I watched as she answered, her voice smooth and practiced. She talked about her extensive experience in brand management and her natural leadership abilities. Every answer sounded rehearsed, like she had memorized them from some career coaching website. Then Blake asked her about a specific project mentioned on her resume, a marketing campaign she claimed to have led at her previous company. Tiffany hesitated for just a moment before launching into a vague explanation filled with buzzwords but lacking any real detail. I made a note on my tablet. She was bluffing. As the interview continued, I noticed more red flags. She interrupted Blake twice, redirecting questions to topics she was more comfortable with. She name-dropped people she had met at networking events, trying to establish credibility through association rather than actual skill. And when Blake asked about her experience with data analysis, a crucial part of the job, she waved it off dismissively. "Oh, I usually have people handle the technical stuff," she said with a laugh. "I'm more of a big-picture person, you know. Strategy and vision." I almost laughed out loud. Strategy and vision. The very things she clearly lacked. After the interview, Blake came to my office looking skeptical. "She's all flash, no substance," he said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. "Honestly, Claire, I don't think she's qualified for the position. But she does have connections, and HR mentioned she came recommended by someone on the advisory board. I nodded slowly. Of course she did. Tiffany always had someone pulling strings for her. That was how she had survived this long in the professional world without ever developing real skills. She networked, charmed, and moved on before anyone could see through the facade. Schedule her for a second interview, I said. Blake raised his eyebrows in surprise. I know she's not qualified, I continued, but there was a clerical error in HR's system. We're obligated to give her a second round. Let's make it a panel interview this time. I want to see how she handles pressure. Blake shrugged. Your call. But I'm telling you, she's not going to improve. He was right, of course. But this wasn't about giving Tiffany a fair shot. This was about watching her unravel in real time, seeing her realize that charm and connections could only carry her so far. I wanted her to fail on her own merit, or lack thereof. Over the next few days, I kept tabs on Tiffany through the office grapevine. Brianna mentioned that Tiffany had been hanging around the lobby before and after her interview, trying to network with employees. One of my team members, Amanda, told me that Tiffany had approached her in the coffee shop downstairs, asking inappropriate questions about salaries and office politics. Then I heard something that made my blood boil. Tiffany had somehow found out that my mentor, an older executive named Catherine Brennan, occasionally gave advice to new hires. Tiffany had tracked Catherine down at a company networking event and spent the entire evening monopolizing her time, laughing too loudly and touching Catherine's arm in that overly familiar way she had with everyone. Catherine mentioned it to me the next day. There was this young woman at the event last night, she said, her tone carefully neutral. Very enthusiastic. She said she was interviewing here. I got the sense she was trying to use me to get ahead. I clenched my jaw. What was her name? Tiffany something. Westbrook, I think. Of course. Tiffany was already trying to manipulate the people I cared about. That crossed a line. I decided it was time to be more strategic. I couldn't let Tiffany continue charming her way through my company, potentially damaging relationships I had spent years building. So I did something I wasn't particularly proud of, but felt necessary. I had a quiet word with Catherine. Catherine, I said over coffee in her office, that woman you met, Tiffany Westbrook, she's my cousin. Catherine's eyes widened. Your cousin? I had no idea. We're not close, I said carefully. In fact, let's just say she has a history of using people and not being honest about her qualifications. I wanted you to know, in case she tries to use your name as a reference or leverage your connection somehow. Catherine nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. I appreciate you telling me. I did find her behavior a bit off-putting. Very aggressive networking. I smiled. Just wanted to give you a heads up. You know how these things can get complicated. After that conversation, I felt more in control. Tiffany could charm all she wanted, but the people who mattered in this company now knew to be cautious. I wasn't sabotaging her directly, I was simply making sure that the truth about her character was known to those who needed to know. The second interview was scheduled for the following week. This time, it would be a panel, Blake, Amanda from my team, and a senior manager from HR named Troy Phillips. I would still observe from behind the glass, watching every moment. But something unexpected happened the day before the interview. Tiffany called me. My personal phone buzzed with her name on the screen, and I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. Claire. Her voice was bright and cheerful. Long time no talk. How have you been? I kept my tone neutral. I've been good, Tiffany. How about you? Oh, amazing. Actually, I'm calling because I have this incredible interview tomorrow at this tech company. I'm so excited, it's exactly the kind of opportunity I've been waiting for. I just wanted to touch base with family, you know. Get some positive energy before the big day. I almost laughed. She had no idea. No idea at all. That's great, Tiffany, I said. Good luck with it. Thanks. You're the best. Maybe we can grab coffee sometime and catch up properly. Maybe, I said noncommittally. I've been pretty busy with work. Still at that same office job? She asked, and there it was, that subtle condescension in her voice. Something like that, I replied, smiling to myself. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The panel interview was a disaster for Tiffany, though she didn't seem to realize it at first. She walked in with the same confident energy, shaking everyone's hands and flashing that practiced smile. But within minutes, the cracks began to show. Blake asked her to describe a time when she had to analyze market data to make a strategic decision. Tiffany fumbled, giving a vague answer about trusting her instincts and reading the room. Amanda followed up with a technical question about digital marketing metrics. Tiffany laughed and said she wasn't really a numbers person, as if that were charming rather than disqualifying. Then Troy asked about her previous employment history. I notice you've had several positions in the past 3 years, he said, glancing at her resume. Can you walk us through why you left each one? Tiffany's smile faltered for just a second. Oh, you know how it is, she said with a wave of her hand. I'm always looking for the next challenge. I don't like to stay in one place too long. I think it's important to keep growing and exploring new opportunities. What she didn't say, but what I knew, was that she had been let go from 2 of those positions and had quit a third right before they could fire her. She wasn't exploring opportunities, she was barely keeping her head above water. The interview continued for another 20 minutes, each question revealing more of Tiffany's incompetence. She contradicted herself twice, exaggerated her role in past projects, and at one point, she made an inappropriate joke that fell completely flat. By the end, even she seemed to sense that things hadn't gone well. Her smile was strained as she thanked everyone and left the room. I met with the panel afterward. Blake shook his head. That was painful to watch. Amanda agreed. She has no idea what this job actually requires. And the way she kept trying to flirt with Troy? Completely unprofessional. Troy himself looked uncomfortable. I don't think we can move forward with her application, he said. She's just not qualified. I nodded. Let's give it a few more days before we make a final decision. I want to be thorough. But I already knew what that decision would be. Tiffany had failed, spectacularly and entirely on her own. I hadn't needed to sabotage her, she had sabotaged herself. Over the next week, strange things started happening at the office. Small things at first. A project file went missing from the shared drive, one that Tiffany had somehow gotten access to during her interview process. Then Amanda mentioned that someone had been asking other employees about me, trying to find out who I was and what position I held. It didn't take long to figure out that Tiffany was behind it. She had started to sense that something was off, that maybe she wasn't being given a fair shot. So she was doing what she always did, digging for information, looking for an angle, trying to find leverage. But what Tiffany didn't know was that I had allies throughout the company. People who respected me and were loyal. When she approached a junior analyst named Oliver Hayes, asking pointed questions about the leadership structure, Oliver came straight to me. Some woman named Tiffany cornered me in the break room, he said, looking uncomfortable. She was asking about you specifically, how long you've been here, what your role is, whether you have any enemies in the company. It was really weird. I felt a surge of anger. Tiffany was trying to undermine me without even knowing she was targeting me. It was almost funny, in a dark way. Thanks for letting me know, Oliver, I said. If she approaches you again, just keep the conversation brief and don't share any information about company structure or personnel. Oliver nodded and left. I sat at my desk, thinking. Tiffany was getting desperate. She could sense that her interview hadn't gone well, and now she was trying to figure out why. In her mind, someone must be working against her. She couldn't accept that maybe, just maybe, she simply wasn't good enough. I decided it was time to let her twist in the wind a little longer. I instructed HR to delay her application response by another week. Let her wonder. Let her worry. Let her start to unravel. 2 weeks later, my mother called to invite me to another family gathering. I almost declined, I was busy, and the thought of seeing Tiffany again made my stomach turn. But then Mom mentioned that Tiffany had specifically asked if I would be there. She said she has some exciting news to share, Mom said. Something about a new job opportunity. She seems very excited. I felt a cold smile spread across my face. I'll be there, I said. The gathering was at Uncle Marcus's house this time, a large suburban home with a perfectly manicured lawn. I arrived fashionably late, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, nothing too flashy, nothing that would draw attention. I wanted to blend in, to observe. Tiffany was already holding court in the living room, surrounded by family members. She wore a stunning red dress and held a glass of champagne, laughing at something Aunt Patricia had said. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. "Claire! You made it!" She rushed over and hugged me, and I forced myself not to stiffen. "I'm so glad you're here. I have the most amazing news." Everyone gathered around as Tiffany prepared to make her announcement. I stood at the back of the group, my expression neutral, my heart pounding. "So," Tiffany began, drawing out the suspense, "I've been interviewing at this incredible tech company. And while I haven't heard back officially yet, I have it on good authority that the job is basically mine." She paused for effect. "One of the executives there practically promised me the position. It's a senior marketing role, huge salary, amazing benefits. I'll finally be working somewhere that appreciates real talent." She looked directly at me then, her smile sharp. "Not like some boring office jobs where you just sit at a desk all day, right, Claire?" The room went quiet. A few people shifted uncomfortably. My mother shot me a worried look. But I just smiled. "That sounds wonderful, Tiffany," I said calmly. "Which company is it?" "Oh, it's called Vertex Innovations. You probably haven't heard of it, it's pretty exclusive." My smile widened. Vertex Innovations. My company. The company I had helped build into what it was today. "Actually," I said, my voice steady and clear, "I think I might have some news that you'd love to hear about that." The room fell completely silent. Tiffany's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" I let the moment stretch, savoring it. Then I spoke words that would change everything. "Tiffany, I work at Vertex Innovations. In fact, I'm the Director of Strategic Development. And I've been overseeing your application." The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Around us, the family erupted into shocked murmurs. My mother gasped. Uncle Marcus's eyes went wide. Aunt Patricia looked like she might faint. Tiffany just stared at me, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips, her perfect facade crumbling in real time. And I stood there, calm and composed, finally holding all the power. The aftermath of that revelation was chaos. Tiffany stammered something about needing air and practically ran out to the backyard. Several family members followed her, trying to understand what had just happened. My mother grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and pride. "Claire, why didn't you tell us?" she whispered. "You're a director. At a major tech company?" I shrugged gently. "I've been busy. And honestly, I wanted to let my work speak for itself." My father, who had been quiet through the whole exchange, came over and pulled me into a hug. "I'm proud of you," he murmured. "Very proud." But the person I was most interested in was Tiffany. Through the window, I could see her pacing in the backyard, her phone pressed to her ear. She looked frantic, gesturing wildly as she spoke. I imagined she was calling friends, maybe even trying to contact someone at Vertex to verify what I had said. When she finally came back inside 20 minutes later, her makeup was smudged and her eyes were red. She avoided looking at me, grabbing her purse and mumbling something about having to leave early. But before she could make it to the door, I called out to her. "Tiffany, wait." She froze. Slowly, she turned to face me. I walked over, keeping my voice low enough that only she could hear. "You should know that your application is still being processed. The panel interview didn't go as well as you might have hoped, but nothing's been decided officially yet." Her eyes narrowed. "You're going to reject me out of spite, aren't you? Because of some stupid family drama?" I shook my head. "No. I'm going to reject you because you're not qualified. You've spent years coasting on charm and connections, but at Vertex, we actually need people who can do the work. The interview results speak for themselves." Tiffany's face flushed with anger. "This is because I hurt your feelings at that brunch, isn't it? You're so petty." "No, Tiffany. This is because you're incompetent. And that has nothing to do with me." She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Finally, she turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The house was silent for a moment before conversation slowly resumed, everyone buzzing about what had just transpired. I stayed for another hour, fielding questions from curious relatives and accepting congratulations. But inside, I felt strangely empty. This wasn't the triumphant moment I had imagined. Watching Tiffany crumble had felt satisfying at first, but now it just felt sad. The following week at work was tense. Word had somehow spread through the office about my connection to Tiffany, though I had told only a few trusted people. Employees who had interacted with her during the interview process now looked at me with new understanding, as if they finally got why I had been so interested in her application. Blake pulled me aside on Wednesday morning. "Claire, we need to talk about the Westbrook situation." I nodded, knowing this conversation was inevitable. We went into my office and closed the door. "HR is getting nervous," Blake said. "There's concern that this could be seen as a conflict of interest. Tiffany's family. If we reject her application and she finds out you were involved in the decision, it could open us up to legal trouble." I had anticipated this. I've been careful to recuse myself from the actual decision-making. You, Amanda, and Troy conducted the interviews. You've all documented her performance independently. My involvement has been minimal and strictly observational. If anything, I've given her more chances than we would give a normal candidate. Blake nodded slowly. "That's true. And honestly, her performance in the interviews was so poor that there's no question she's unqualified. But still, the optics are tricky." "Then let's make it clean," I said. "Send the rejection through normal channels. Standard letter, no special treatment. If she has questions, she can direct them to HR like anyone else would." Blake agreed, and we moved forward with that plan. The rejection letter went out on Friday afternoon. I imagined Tiffany opening it, reading the polite but firm language about how we were pursuing other candidates whose qualifications more closely match our needs. I wondered if she would blame me, or if she would finally accept that maybe, just maybe, she needed to actually develop some real skills. But I underestimated Tiffany's capacity for self-deception. On Monday morning, Brianna came into my office with a worried expression. "Claire, you need to see this." She handed me her phone, which was open to Tiffany's Instagram account. My cousin had posted a long caption about corrupt hiring practices and nepotism working in reverse. She didn't name Vertex Innovations directly, but she heavily implied it, talking about how certain people in power use their positions to punish family members instead of helping them. The post had already gotten over 200 likes and dozens of supportive comments. People who didn't know the full story were rallying behind her, calling the unnamed company toxic and praising Tiffany for exposing the truth. I felt my jaw tighten. This was typical Tiffany. Instead of accepting responsibility for her own shortcomings, she was spinning a narrative where she was the victim. And people were buying it. "What do you want to do?" Brianna asked. I thought for a moment. My first instinct was to respond, to defend myself and the company publicly. But that would only escalate things and draw more attention to the situation. Instead, I needed to be strategic. Nothing publicly, I said. But I want to make sure our employees know the truth. Can you draft an internal memo, nothing accusatory, just a reminder about our hiring practices and how all candidates are evaluated fairly based on merit? Make it general, but clear enough that people understand we have nothing to hide. Brianna nodded and left to work on the memo. Meanwhile, I decided it was time to focus on building something positive. I had spent too much energy thinking about Tiffany's failures. It was time to showcase the success of people who actually deserved it. There was a junior analyst on my team named Maya Brooks. No, I couldn't use that name. Let me say there was a junior analyst named Jessica Carter. Wait, that was off limits too. There was a junior analyst named Nina Price who had been quietly doing exceptional work for months. She was smart, hardworking, and had a genuine passion for the industry. I decided to mentor her personally, giving her opportunities to shine on high-profile projects. Over the next few weeks, I met with Nina regularly, sharing insights and strategies I had learned throughout my career. She absorbed everything like a sponge, asking thoughtful questions and implementing feedback immediately. It was refreshing to work with someone who actually wanted to learn and grow. Meanwhile, Tiffany's social media campaign fizzled out quickly. Her followers moved on to other drama, and her posts became increasingly desperate attempts to regain attention. I watched from a distance, no longer feeling angry or vindictive, just tired of the whole situation. Then something unexpected happened. I received an anonymous email at my work address. The subject line read, "You should know the truth about Tiffany Westbrook." I hesitated before opening it. Anonymous emails were rarely good news, and part of me wondered if this was some kind of trap. But curiosity won out. I clicked. The email was short. "Tiffany has been telling people in your industry that you sabotage her career out of jealousy. She's reaching out to competitors and spreading rumors about Vertex Innovations' hiring practices. She's also claiming she has evidence of misconduct. Thought you should know." A concerned colleague. My blood ran cold. This was worse than social media posts. If Tiffany was actively reaching out to people in the industry, she could damage not just my reputation but the company's as well. And the mention of evidence was particularly concerning. What evidence could she possibly have? I forwarded the email to Blake and our legal team, then spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work while my mind raced with worst-case scenarios. What if Tiffany somehow twisted the situation enough to cause real damage? What if clients started asking questions? That evening, I got a call from Catherine Brennan. "Claire, I need to talk to you about something sensitive." My stomach dropped. "What's going on?" "I was at an industry mixer tonight, and a young woman approached me. She said her name was Tiffany and that she was your cousin. She tried to get me to corroborate some story about you blocking her career opportunities. I shut it down immediately, but I wanted you to know she's making the rounds." I closed my eyes, fighting back a wave of frustration. "Thank you for telling me, Catherine. I appreciate your loyalty." "Of course. But Claire, you need to be careful. She seems determined to cause problems." After hanging up, I sat in my apartment feeling a level of stress I hadn't experienced in months. Tiffany wasn't just being petty online, she was actively trying to sabotage me in the professional world. This had gone beyond family drama. This was a direct attack on everything I had built. I needed to end this, once and for all. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 2 weeks later, there was a major networking event for tech professionals in the city. Vertex Innovations was sponsoring a panel discussion, and I was scheduled to speak about digital innovation and leadership. It was a high-profile event with hundreds of attendees, including CEOs, investors, and media representatives. I knew Tiffany would be there. She always found her way into these kinds of events, using her connections and charm to get past the door. And sure enough, when I arrived at the venue, I spotted her across the room. She was dressed impeccably, working the crowd, laughing and networking as if nothing had happened. When she saw me, her smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. She whispered something to the man she was talking to and started making her way toward me. I stood my ground, waiting. "Claire," she said, her voice bright but strained. "What a surprise to see you here." "I'm speaking on the main panel," I said evenly. "You?" "Oh, just networking. You know how it is." She glanced around, as if making sure we weren't overheard. "Look, about everything that's happened. I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. I never meant for things to get so blown out of proportion." I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Because from what I hear, you've been telling people in the industry that I sabotaged your career." Tiffany's face flushed. I was upset. "I said some things I didn't mean. But honestly, Claire, don't you think you're taking this a bit too far? It's just a job. Why are you being so vindictive?" Before I could respond, a voice interrupted us. "Excuse me, are you Claire Anderson?" I turned to see a journalist from a major tech publication. "Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to your panel discussion. I've been following Vertex Innovation's growth, and your work has been really impressive. Could I get a quick quote for my article?" I smiled. "Of course." I glanced at Tiffany, whose face had gone pale. "If you'll excuse me, Tiffany." As I walked away with the journalist, I could feel Tiffany's eyes burning into my back. The journalist asked me about leadership, innovation, and the future of the tech industry. I answered confidently, professionally, and by the time the interview was done, a small crowd had gathered to listen. When I finally made it to the stage for the panel discussion, I looked out at the audience and found Tiffany sitting near the back, her arms crossed, her expression sour. And in that moment, I realized something important. I had already won. Not because I had humiliated her or sabotaged her career, she had done that herself. I had won because I had built something real, something that no amount of her bitterness could take away. The panel went brilliantly. I spoke about perseverance, strategic thinking, and the importance of building genuine skills rather than relying on connections alone. I never mentioned Tiffany by name, but every point I made felt like a subtle rebuttal to everything she represented. Afterward, dozens of people came up to congratulate me, exchange business cards, and discuss potential collaborations. Tiffany was nowhere to be seen. She had left early, unable to stomach watching me succeed. In the weeks that followed, things finally started to settle. Tiffany's attempts to damage my reputation had backfired spectacularly. People in the industry had done their research and realized quickly that her claims didn't hold up. If anything, her behavior had only made her look unprofessional and bitter. I heard through the grapevine that she had moved to another city, supposedly to pursue new opportunities. I suspected she had simply run out of bridges to burn in our area and needed to start fresh somewhere else. Part of me felt sorry for her. She was her own worst enemy, sabotaging every opportunity with her entitlement and lack of genuine skill. But mostly, I just felt relieved. The Tiffany chapter of my life was finally closing. At work, things were better than ever. Nina, my mentor, had just completed a major project that impressed the entire executive team. Mr. Anderson personally praised her work and asked me about my mentorship approach. "Whatever you're doing with your team, Claire, keep doing it. We need more leaders like you." I also received an unexpected opportunity. A national business magazine wanted to feature me in an article about young leaders transforming the tech industry. The journalist who had interviewed me at the networking event had been so impressed that she pitched the story to her editor. It was the kind of recognition I had once dreamed about but never thought would actually happen. When the article was published 2 months later, it included a photo of me in my office, looking confident and professional. The headline read, "From Underdog to Industry Leader, How Claire Anderson Built Success Through Strategy and Perseverance." My family was thrilled. My parents framed the magazine cover. My brother Tyler shared it on all his social media accounts with a caption about how proud he was. Even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years reached out to congratulate me. The only person who didn't acknowledge it was Tiffany. She had blocked me on all social media, and according to my mother, she refused to attend any family gatherings where I would be present. It was sad, in a way. She had so much potential if she had just been willing to put in the work and be humble enough to learn. 6 months after the magazine article, I was approached with an even bigger opportunity. Mr. Anderson called me into his office one morning, looking unusually serious. "Claire, I wanted to talk to you about the future of Vertex Innovations. We're planning a major expansion into international markets, and we need someone to lead the initiative. Someone with vision, strategic thinking, and the ability to build and manage teams. I believe you're that person." I felt my heart race. This was beyond anything I had imagined. Leading an international expansion meant traveling the world, building partnerships across continents, and shaping the company's global strategy. It was intimidating and exhilarating in equal measure. "I'm honored," I said carefully. "But I want to make sure I understand what this role would entail." Mr. Anderson spent the next hour outlining the position. It would mean a promotion to Vice President of International Development, a significant salary increase, and the opportunity to hire and build my own global team. The company would invest heavily in the initiative, and success could position me for even higher leadership roles in the future. "I don't need an answer today," Mr. Anderson said. "Take some time to think about it. But Claire, I want you to know that this company's success over the past 2 years has been largely due to your contributions. You've earned this opportunity." I left his office in a daze, my mind spinning. This was everything I had worked for and more. But it was also a huge responsibility. What if I failed? What if I wasn't ready? That evening, I called my mother. I told her about the opportunity and my fears. She listened quietly, and when I finished, she said something that stuck with me. "Claire, do you remember when you were little, and you wanted to learn how to ride a bike? You were so scared of falling that you refused to try for months. But then one day, you just got on and rode. You fell a few times, but you kept getting back on. And eventually, you were riding like you'd been doing it your whole life. This is just like that. You're scared because it's new and big, but you've already proven you can do hard things. Trust yourself." I thought about her words for the rest of the night. She was right. I had spent so long doubting myself, trying to prove I was good enough, that I had forgotten to actually believe in my own abilities. I had built a successful career not through luck or connections, but through hard work, strategy, and perseverance. I could do this. The next morning, I walked into Mr. Anderson's office and accepted the position. The announcement of my promotion sent ripples through the company and the industry. Congratulations poured in from colleagues, competitors, and even people I had never met. LinkedIn messages filled my inbox. Former professors from college reached out. It was overwhelming and humbling. But the most surprising message came from someone I hadn't expected, Tiffany. It was a text message, sent late at night. "Congratulations on your promotion. I saw the announcement. You deserve it." I stared at the message for a long time, trying to decipher if it was genuine or laced with sarcasm. There were no follow-up texts, no excuses or explanations. Just that single sentence. I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let our relationship remain severed. But another part of me, the part that remembered we were family, that we had played together as children before competition and resentment had poisoned everything, felt compelled to acknowledge it. Finally, I typed back, "Thank you, Tiffany. I hope you're doing well." Her response came a few minutes later. "I'm working on it. I've been doing some reflecting. Therapy, actually. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it." I felt a strange mixture of emotions reading those words. Relief, sadness, and a cautious hope that maybe, someday, we could rebuild some kind of relationship. Not the competitive, toxic dynamic we'd had before, but something healthier. "I appreciate that," I wrote back. It takes courage to admit when we've made mistakes. I'm proud of you for doing the work. We didn't exchange any more messages that night, but something had shifted. It wasn't forgiveness yet, real healing would take time, but it was a start. My first major project as vice president was launching our presence in European markets. I spent months traveling between London, Berlin, and Paris, meeting with potential partners, negotiating deals, and building relationships. It was exhausting but exhilarating. Nina came with me as my deputy, and together we assembled a team of talented individuals from various countries. Watching Nina grow into a leadership role reminded me of my own journey, the nervousness, the self-doubt, the gradual realization that you're capable of more than you think. During one particularly difficult negotiation in Berlin, Nina pulled me aside. "How do you stay so calm? I feel like I'm going to mess this up." I smiled. "You know, someone once asked me that same question. And the truth is, I'm not always calm. I'm terrified half the time. But I've learned that confidence isn't about not being scared, it's about trusting that even if things go wrong, you'll figure it out. You've prepared for this, Nina. You know your stuff. Trust that." She nodded, taking a deep breath. When we went back into the negotiation, she handled herself brilliantly, securing terms that exceeded our expectations. The European expansion was a massive success. Within a year, we had established offices in 3 countries and secured partnerships with major corporations. Revenue from international markets doubled, then tripled. Mr. Anderson called it the most successful expansion in the company's history. But more than the numbers, what made me proud was the team we had built. People from different backgrounds and cultures, all working toward a common goal with mutual respect and collaboration. It was everything I believed a company should be. 2 years after my promotion, Vertex Innovations was recognized as one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the world. We were featured in major publications, courted by investors, and becoming a household name in the industry. I was invited to speak at conferences around the world, sharing insights about leadership, strategy, and international business. It was surreal standing on those stages, remembering the girl who had once sat silently at family brunches, too intimidated to share her accomplishments. At one conference in Singapore, a young woman approached me during the networking session. "Ms. Anderson, I just wanted to say thank you. I heard you speak last year about overcoming self-doubt and building confidence through competence. Your story inspired me to go back to school and pursue my MBA. I just got accepted to my dream program." Moments like that reminded me why all the hard work had been worth it. I wasn't just building a career anymore, I was hopefully inspiring others to believe in themselves and pursue their own dreams. My relationship with my family had also improved. My parents were supportive and proud, no longer comparing me to anyone else. Tyler called regularly to catch up, genuinely interested in my life and work. Even extended family members had stopped making condescending comments about my career. As for Tiffany, we had slowly started rebuilding a relationship. We exchanged occasional messages, nothing deep but friendly enough. She had moved to Austin and was working for a nonprofit, doing event coordination. According to my mother, she seemed happier, less focused on appearances and more focused on doing meaningful work. We hadn't seen each other in person since that networking event years ago, but she sent me a message on my birthday, "Happy birthday, Claire. I'm genuinely happy for everything you've achieved. You earned it all." I smiled reading it. Maybe we would never be close, but at least we had found a kind of peace. The ultimate validation came 3 years after my promotion to vice president. I was sitting in a board meeting, presenting our quarterly international results, when Mr. Anderson made an unexpected announcement. "Before we wrap up today's meeting, I have an important announcement to make. As many of you know, I've been planning my retirement for the past year. Finding the right successor has been my top priority because this company's future depends on strong leadership." My heart started pounding. I had heard rumors about his retirement but hadn't dared to hope I would be considered for his position. After careful consideration and consultation with the board, Mr. Anderson continued, "I'm thrilled to announce that Claire Anderson will be our next Chief Executive Officer, effective in 6 months after a transition period." The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. CEO of the entire company. The company I had joined years ago as a mid-level analyst, hoping just to prove I was competent. After the meeting, colleagues congratulated me with genuine warmth. Blake hugged me, grinning. "I always knew you'd end up running this place. You've earned every bit of this, Claire." Catherine Brennan, my mentor, pulled me aside with tears in her eyes. "I'm so incredibly proud of you. Watching your journey has been one of the greatest privileges of my career." That evening, I called my parents. My mother cried happy tears. My father told me he'd always known I was special. Tyler joked that I'd have to hire him now that I was CEO. Even distant relatives reached out, sharing memories of me as a child and saying they'd always known I'd do great things. The person I most wanted to hear from was Tiffany. And surprisingly, her message came that night, "CEO. Wow, Claire. I don't even have words. You've come so far. I'm genuinely proud of you, cousin. Maybe someday I'll work half as hard as you do. Congratulations." I read her message several times, touched by the sincerity. I typed back, "Thank you, Tiffany. That means more than you know. And for what it's worth, I think you're on the right path now. Keep going." The transition to CEO was both thrilling and terrifying. I spent 6 months shadowing Mr. Anderson, learning the intricacies of leading an entire company. He introduced me to investors, walked me through board dynamics, and shared hard-won wisdom from his decades of experience. "The hardest part isn't making decisions," he told me during one of our final meetings. "It's living with the consequences and staying true to your values when everyone has an opinion about what you should do. Remember why you're here, Claire. You're here because you care about people and building something meaningful. Don't lose that." His words stayed with me as I officially stepped into the role. My first act as CEO was to launch a company-wide initiative focused on mentorship and professional development. I wanted to create opportunities for people like I had been, talented but overlooked, hardworking but lacking connections. We established scholarship programs, mentorship networks, and leadership training. Within a year, employee satisfaction scores reached an all-time high, and we were recognized as one of the best places to work in the tech industry. I also made a point to stay connected to the people who had supported me along the way. Nina was now a senior director, leading major initiatives and mentoring others just as I had mentored her. Blake had been promoted to Chief Operating Officer. The team we had built together was now shaping the company's future. 1 year into my tenure as CEO, I received an invitation that brought everything full circle. A major business magazine wanted to feature me in a cover story about women in tech leadership. The photo shoot took place at Vertex's headquarters, in the same building where I had once been a nervous analyst hoping to make a good impression. During the interview, the journalist asked about my journey. "What would you say to your younger self, the person who was just starting out and didn't know if she'd make it?" I thought about that question carefully. I'd tell her that she's stronger than she knows. That the people who doubt her don't matter as much as she thinks they do. And that success isn't about proving anything to anyone else, it's about building something you're proud of and helping others along the way. "Was there a specific moment when you realized you had made it?" the journalist asked. I smiled, thinking back to that family brunch years ago, to Tiffany's cruel words, to the humiliation I had felt. There wasn't one moment. It was a series of small victories, each one building my confidence. But if I had to choose, it was the moment I stopped caring about whether certain people approved of me and started trusting my own judgment. The magazine cover was stunning. The headline read, "Claire Anderson, Building Success Through Persistence, Strategy, and Heart." My parents bought dozens of copies. Tyler framed one for his office. And once again, messages poured in from people saying the article had inspired them. The story could end there, with me successfully leading the company and having proven everyone wrong. But life rarely offers such clean endings. 6 months after the magazine feature, I attended a family reunion, the first major gathering I'd been to in years. I arrived expecting the usual dynamics: proud parents, supportive siblings, distant relatives asking about my job. What I didn't expect was seeing Tiffany there, looking nervous and out of place. We hadn't seen each other in person in over 4 years. She looked different, older, yes, but also softer somehow. The sharp edges of her arrogance had worn down, replaced by something more genuine. "Claire," she said when she spotted me. "I wasn't sure if you'd be here." "I almost didn't come," I admitted. Big family gatherings aren't really my thing anymore. We stood awkwardly for a moment before she spoke again. "Can we talk privately?" We walked out to the backyard, away from the noise of the party. Tiffany took a deep breath before speaking. "I've wanted to say this in person for a long time. I'm sorry, Claire. For everything. The way I treated you, the things I said, trying to sabotage you, all of it. I was jealous and insecure, and I took it out on you because you were an easy target. But you were never the problem. I was." I felt tears prick my eyes, surprised by the emotion in her voice. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot. You were always better than me," Tiffany continued. "Not just professionally, but as a person. You worked hard, you were kind, and you never tried to tear anyone down to lift yourself up. I should have been supporting you instead of competing with you. I'm sorry it took me so long to figure that out." We talked for over an hour, really talked for the first time in our adult lives. She told me about her struggles, her therapy journey, and how she was trying to build a life based on her own values rather than other people's expectations. I shared my own challenges, the pressure of leadership, the loneliness that sometimes came with success, the ongoing work of believing in myself. By the time we went back inside, something had healed between us. We weren't best friends, and maybe we never would be. But we were family, and we had finally found a way to be in each other's lives without toxicity or competition. Looking back on everything, I realize my journey was never really about Tiffany. She was just a catalyst, a person whose cruelty forced me to either shrink or grow. I chose to grow. Success, I've learned, isn't about revenge or proving people wrong. It's about building something meaningful, helping others rise, and staying true to your values even when it's hard. The sweetest victory isn't watching your enemies fail, it's building a life you're proud of, regardless of who's watching. Today, Vertex Innovations continues to thrive under my leadership. We've expanded to 12 countries, employ over 3,000 people, and are consistently ranked among the most innovative companies in the tech industry. But what makes me proudest isn't the numbers or the recognition, it's the culture we've built. People come to work here because they feel valued, challenged, and supported. We promote from within, invest in professional development, and create opportunities for people who might otherwise be overlooked. In some ways, every employee who succeeds here is a testament to what's possible when talent meets opportunity. My family relationships have healed in ways I never thought possible. My parents are genuinely proud, not because of my title but because they finally see the person I've always been. Tyler and I are close, talking regularly about life, work, and everything in between. And Tiffany, well, we're working on it. Slowly but surely. As I sit in my office now, looking out at the city skyline, I think about that girl at the family brunch all those years ago. The one who was humiliated and dismissed, who felt small and insignificant. I wish I could tell her what I know now, that the people who make you feel small are often struggling with their own insecurities. That success is built in quiet moments of hard work, not in public displays of arrogance. And that the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's building a life so full and meaningful that you forget why you were angry in the first place. The journey from that brunch to this office was long, difficult, and sometimes painful. But every challenge taught me something valuable. Every setback made me stronger. And every moment of self-doubt eventually transformed into confidence earned through competence. I built this success not by tearing anyone down, but by lifting myself and others up. And in the end, that's the legacy I want to leave, not as someone who defeated her enemies, but as someone who proved that grace, hard work, and authenticity will always triumph over arrogance and entitlement. That's my story. Not of revenge, but of resilience. Not of proving others wrong, but of proving myself right. And I wouldn't change a single moment of it.